is unacceptable behavior. This is unacceptable behavior. The fact that multiple students have access to loaded firearms should stop everyone in their tracks. This is not just a school issue. This is a community alarm. What happens in our schools does not stay in our schools. It carries over into our neighborhoods. And what happens in our communities comes right back to our schools. In the past 2 cases, our detective went out through search warrants and obtained information in reference to these particular cases, and it was directly involving to the students that were involved in these handgun incidents. In one case, our detectives confirmed that a firearm recovered on April the 28th was produced using a 3D printer, which was located inside the juvenile's bedroom closet. Many parents may not recognize what that equipment is or understand its potential. That same type of technology can be used to be manufacturing firearm components. And in that second case, detectives recovered a total of 6 firearms from a student's home, and 4 of them were recovered inside the juvenile's bedroom. We are also working to determine whether any of these firearms are linked to any other cases in our community. We are using systems such as the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, also called NIBIN, which will help speed up this particular process. But at this stage, the answers are still pending. We're also looking to, it's too early to determine whether if these cases are connected in any way. In my humble opinion, this illicit gun activity is alarming. And this criminal activity must be mitigated on many levels. And those individuals that choose to use or be in possession in illicit firearms in our community need to be fully prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I will take questions.
Is there any thought of putting metal detectors in the schools?
That is going to fall at the decision of our appointed superintendent and the elected school board members.
Sheriff Berry, in your investigators' communications with these 2 particular teens, have you learned why they brought the guns to school?
That is still under investigation, but the troubling issue is not solely that they're in possession of these guns. These guns are being manufactured right in their homes of young people who are 15 years old. This is very troubling on many levels.
Sheriff, there are parents here. There are laws in Maryland. First off, should parents be prosecuted in this case? These cases, these 2 cases, this stuff was in their house and in their bedroom.
In these particular cases that come here in Charles County, we work very closely with the state's attorney's office and look at all the facts involving these particular cases. So those particular laws are on the book. If there's some negligence in the home, that the state's attorney looks at those particular issues.
What do you think about parents? What should parents be taking away from this? What's the parents' responsibility here?
I think there needs to be more engagement and more involvement.
And sir, maybe not in these 2 particular cases, but from your experience, what's going on in your community, why are young people arming themselves like this?
That is a very good question. And we need to look at that from many levels. From an academic level, we need to definitely have in our communities when we see young people getting involved in illicit behavior, make sure we direct them to particular programming to hopefully mitigate these particular issues. But again, it's very alarming as what we're seeing not only in Charles County, but around the nation in reference to young people choosing to use weapons, carry weapons. And we're seeing homes being shot up, we're seeing cars being shot up, and we're seeing young people losing their lives. So this, from my perspective, this is an alarm. We need to look at this as a multi-tiered approach to address these particular issues that are happening in our schools and on our streets.
Sheriff, how do you see this in terms of getting these guns out of the homes, in terms of, I guess, a preemptive, like, how do you feel? Could this have resulted in something
We see these types of situations happening all across the nation in reference to school shootings. This could happen right here in Charles County. And this press conference that's taking place today could have a very more tragic outcome. So we need to do something in the schools, we need to do something in the courts, and we definitely need to do something to mitigate these situations when we find young people not on the right path.
So you're not aware of any kind of beefing that's going on, like different neighborhoods, different groups that would have precipitated them wanting to bring guns to school, whether to use in school or after school?
As I previously stated, all of those things are on the table, and we're looking at, one, why are they in the possession of these types of guns, and what particularly may be happening in our community.
I'm gonna try one more time. I know Tony Covington will make a decision and his staff on charges down the road. That's not your decision. But what is your feeling about this with regard to the parent responsibility? 15 years old, guns, and that 3D printer not hidden except behind a door. What should be happening in these houses?
Again, there must be more engagement and involvement in the parental aspect of things.
Would a 3D printer even show up on metal scanner for schools? 3D printed gun?
Normally, the 3D printer is just producing a portion of the gun. The rest of the gun would have to be ordered offline, and most of that is metal. So there probably would be some type of indicator that the gun would show up in a backpack or on a person.
And Sheriff, can you share with us how your school resource officers came to realize these guns were in the schools? How did that all come to light?
On the first case, we received information, or the school resource officer received information and followed up that information and encountered the student. There was a brief scuffle between the officer and the student, and the gun was recovered on the student's person in the school. The second incident, the administrator came aware of it. The student was acting suspicious in some nature, which resulted in them searching the student's locker, and it was recovered in the student's locker. And that's when Sheriff's Office got involved in it. And then we brought all resources to bear in reference to the situation, do a follow-up, and that's what culminated with search warrants at both of those locations, discovering what we found.
Could you talk about the incident with the middle school as well?
There was a loaded handgun brought to the middle school, and that, I believe, that was associated with a family member's weapon.
And what is your message to the student who submitted the tip on the Wednesday case to the SRO and came forward and helped them to find this gun?
This, from my perspective, is a testament to the outstanding work that's being done by our school resource officer in the Charles County Public Schools, to have those students, they trust our school resource officers, and they are willing to share certain information with them, whether it's in the school or outside of the school. And it's about building that relationship and trust, and we really appreciate having our staff officers in that school. So to the students at large, if you see something, basically say something, whether that's in the school or not in the school.
And Sheriff Berry, how unprecedented was it to yesterday have the school system shut down St. Charles High, and for your guys to go in there and do a complete sweep of a school when school should have been in session?
It's very troubling, and that's why I've asked you to come here, to have a candid and honest conversation of where we are as a community, where we are as a state, and where we are as a nation. To have us shut down the school, to do a comprehensive search, under exigent circumstances, is very troubling, and it's troubling on many levels.
And with 3D printers, what is your take on how this can be addressed? Because obviously the 3D printers in themselves are not illegal and can be used for legitimate purposes. So what is your feeling as to how this type of behavior can be regulated as far as manufacturing guns?
From a legislative standpoint, I think we have to have a broad conversation about not only the 3D printers, but also the individuals who are able to order pieces of a gun to be ordered to their homes to create a gun without going through the normal purchasing of the gun, registering of the gun, and licensing of the gun. So that's, has to be definitely done on the legislative level.